Thinking of a loved one as forever gone? Hey beautiful souls, my name is Adaure and you're welcome to Adaure Speaks. My goal here is to provide life-changing insights through sharing my personal journey with you. If that seems like something you might be interested in, please consider subscribing. I am so thankful that you stopped by today. If you're already a subscriber, thank you. You're the reason why I do what I do. It is an honor to have you here with me today. I'm going to be talking about something that is very personal to me. It's a little bit different from what I usually talk about, but today I'm going to talk about dealing with grief. Okay, if you've lost someone close to you, a loved one, I am so sorry for your loss. And today I'm about to tell you how I have been able to, go through the grief of losing a loved one. I lost my mom recently, and I say recently because no time is actually time enough for you to deal with the grief of losing someone. My mom passed in 2018, and that was the worst day of my entire life. I was raised by a single mom, so she was basically all I knew. And growing up, I did not exactly have a lot of friends. My mom was very particular about the kind of people we mingled with. So we grew up to be like that. We are not, and I mean by when I talk about we, I'm talking about my siblings and we are not really ones to keep a whole lot of friends around. We found out that we could confide in her, so the bond was just way too strong. If anything were to happen, if we called ourselves first on the phone and we're not able to get through to each other, we would call mom. And sometimes really there was no need for us to start calling each other. We'll just go ahead and call mom, because growing up she was a bit of an authoritarian. She was she was a disciplinarian, okay? But after we grew up to a certain age, she kind of loosened up a little bit. So we got to know these parts of her that we never even knew existed. And, we just started bonding from there. And it was amazing. My mom was like my BFF, even though she was my mom, and there were definitely some boundaries that I just could not cross. But we bonded so well that we could talk about a lot of things, okay? She was my confidant. So losing her is something that I cannot exactly, I can't put it in words. I felt like I lost a compass. I felt like I lost my life manual. Yeah, I think that would be the best way to describe it. So for me to put how lost I was into perspective, imagine that you're on a journey to an unknown land, say in the 1902s or something like that, 18th century, 19th century, something like early 19th century, something like that. And you're traveling to this unknown country or continent, and halfway through your journey you lose your compass or your map and stuff like that. Mind you, back in the day, there were no cell phones, there was no Facebook and all of that. So all you had was your compass, and then you lose it. That was how I felt when my mother died. My whole world stopped in an instant. Everything fell apart. Now, before I continue, it's important for me to say this here real quick, okay? Everybody grieves in a different way. It's very unfortunate that the society has a certain way they expect people who are grieving to grieve. It is not realistic. We all have our different personalities. We all have different things that we're dealing with. It is completely unfair, okay? Yeah, let's just throw that out there. And the reason is because you or anybody, people, it's just what it is, okay? Some people grieve by becoming just really sad and depressed. Other people grieve by taking on more, activities and being more outgoing and reaching out to more people, trying to live more. Some people grieve by being extreme. So you could meet this brunette who has been, they've had dark hair all their lives, and they lose someone that is that close to them, and all of a sudden they have red hair or green hair or pink hair or white hair. Grief does a lot of things to people, and it's different for everyone, and we don't get to decide how another person grieves. Everybody would grieve in a different way, and that is completely okay. Now, after this happened, I completely shut down. Immediately, I had to learn how to compartmentalize. I had to, basically, I think my brain got into a fight or flight mode. The reason is because I didn't have time to process all of that emotion. I didn't have the time to grieve in the moment after my mom passed, months after she passed. I didn't have the time. And even after the funeral, months after the funeral, I still would not allow myself to grieve. And the reason is because I had so many things to do. My mother's death rocked my world. I felt like it was the apocalypse or something. It just, for me, everything shut down. Life itself just made absolutely no sense to me. You have to understand that, first of all, I did not even know that it was possible for my mother to die like that. And I know, it's crazy. But the thing is, we tend to think that our parents are superhumans or something. We just don't see them as people who could die. You would think that mine would be different, considering that I lost my dad at a young age, but that's not true. Of course, I was very young anyway. I didn't know anything about death. But my mom, she was tough as nails. She was tough. So for her to just die like that, man, yeah, that was hard. And being that I talked to her until she actually passed, yeah, that was really difficult. So I just made a decision. I said, I am not going to process any of this. I have a lot to do. I am the first child. I am of the Igbo tribe in Nigeria, West Africa. And that's a whole lot of responsibilities. And I could not afford to just lay down in bed and, think about my life and all that. I did that for a few days, but that was it. Even while I was on the bed, all I was doing was trying to plan the funeral and stuff like that. So it was not really like I had the time to process all of that. I was just simply in awe. I was in shock. Okay, so that was what happened. And as soon as I made that decision, I went into planning mode. I did everything and anything to just distract me from all that pain that I was feeling. I was not ready to deal with it. Okay, so I went into planning mode. And after the funeral, I came back to the US. I had other plans even while I was in Nigeria. Even while I was back home in Nigeria, and as soon as I got back, I went into full execution mode because something happened. When you lose a loved one like that, it does something to you. It is a very quick paradigm shift. I'm telling you, one of the fastest you would ever experience is the loss of a loved one. It shows you, it makes you realize what is truly. It makes you realize what is truly important in life. Some of the things you thought were manageable, all of a sudden they're no longer manageable because you realize that life is very fleeting. You realize that nobody gets out of here alive. You realize that time is very important, and it causes you to reevaluate. It makes you at least come to terms with your own mortality. It does really strong things to you as a person, and that was what my mom's death did to me. I was what you would call a very indecisive person before she passed. I would take a very long time to make decisions, sometimes even years. And the reason is because I had come to count on her intuition. She was not perfect by any means, but she had this deep maternal instinct that I had come to trust to guide me through life's journey, and I found myself without that. So as scary as that was, I had to pick up courage, and I had to now start making these decisions for myself without her vetting them for me. And yeah, it was completely life altering. So yeah, ever since that happened, I have found that I make decisions. I mean, I sleep over them, that's for sure. I do think about the pros and the cons, and then I go ahead and, I get it done regardless of what the outcome is. I just pick up some strength or some courage from anywhere I can get it, and, get things done. That was one of the things that changed about me after that heavy loss. So long and short of my story is this: there is no right or wrong way to grieve, but one thing that really did help me also is this: apart from the fact that I was able to compartmentalize and decide on what to act on and what not to act on, what to ignore, excuse me, is that I decided that even though I was not going to be able to see her physically, I made a decision to believe that she is always around me. So I did things a little bit differently. Where I come from, usually when a person passes, their clothes and their personal effects are distributed among members of the community. The things that the person can no longer use sometimes could be burned or, have some little ritual done over them and stuff like that. Usually when you go through pictures of family members or loved ones that are no longer with us, you would find that their pictures are marked with RIP, that is rest in peace. That is what I grew up seeing, but I decided to do something different. First of all, I believe in reincarnation. I do not believe that that there is actually such a thing as death. What I mean by that is this: even though the physical body is no longer with us, I believe that the spirit, the soul is eternal. So that was one thing that helped me. So I chose to just focus on that instead of me thinking, oh, I'm not gonna see my mom again, I'm not gonna talk to her again. What I decided to do was the exact opposite of what I was taught. So usually when a person would die, if they have framed pictures in the house, most times you find that they reduce the pictures to maybe 1 or 2. Some would completely remove those pictures entirely from their walls. I did the exact opposite. Before my mom passed, I did not have pictures of her in my bedroom. I was still married at the time, but after I moved, I picked up her pictures, and some of them that were framed, I put them up in my bedroom. I needed to be seeing her every single day, so that helped work on my subconscious to ingrain in me the fact that even though I cannot see her physically, that her spirit was always with me. Another thing that I did differently was something that you might consider to be cray-cray, but hey, it worked for me. I would always talk to her. So when I miss her, I'd be like, oh, I miss you. Okay. When something like I would achieve something or cross a milestone or something like that, I would come home, come to my bedroom, just have fun, tell her all about it. I'm like, wow, do you know what happened today? Guess this, that. And I would laugh and I would feel like she was there with me, and we would just have fun. After she passed, before the funeral, what I would usually do was, because for some reason after she passed, I was afraid of driving on the highway. I was afraid of driving, period. I was so sad. Life just did not have any meaning for me. There were days that I felt like just letting the vehicle go. Okay, I'm not gonna lie about that. It was that bad. But what changed that part for me was because she was the first person that I actually drove in a vehicle. What I mean by that is this: she did not train me to drive. She's not the one that taught me how to drive. So in that aspect, she was not the first person to sit in the front of the car that was driving. However, she was the first official passenger that I had in the first vehicle that I ever drove. So because of that, what I now started to do was, whenever I would drive, I would imagine that she was still seated in the front seat of my car, and we will talk about stuff. Sometimes I'll cry, sometimes I'll laugh, how it goes. But basically, I was just letting go of all that pent-up emotions, just a little bit after bit, and that helped a lot. Thinking of a loved one as forever gone, everyone is different, like I would always say, and what works for you might not work for me, and vice versa. However, I found out that if I had decided to think of my mom as someone that was gone forever, I'll never see her again, or maybe as the Christians believe that I would not see her again until what's it called, Judgment Day or something like that, or in the afterlife. I could not do that. Maybe you can, maybe that is what will work for you. You got to try all sorts, but for me, that would not have worked. That would have put me in a state of misery that was even way worse than what I was going through at the time. So feeling like she was around me, buying things that she would like, just having fun and living like she would want me to live, those were the things that helped me and continue to help me. Most people from my culture would also believe that if you lose a loved one, you're supposed to mourn. And yes, you can mourn if that is what you would want to do. It depends on what will work for you. I was in a state of mind that that was not even an option. I could not do that at the moment, at that time. But I had to ask myself, what would my mother prefer? My mom is the kind of person that, regardless of what was going on, she would want you to look good. She will want your hair done. She will want your nails done. She will want you to not put on too much weight. She was just like that, okay? She was a girly girl. I am a girly girl. So I had to be like, okay, what would she want? What would make her happy? I know she knows I'm sad. I know she's sad. But what would she prefer? And I decided to go with that. So every day I would wake up and try to look presentable regardless of how I felt, and just to keep it going. And And I mean, that was what worked for me. I do not believe that our loved ones are completely gone. I think they're always around. I think if we listen with love and we listen hard enough, sometimes we hear them. Sometimes when I run into issues and I really need some guidance that I cannot get from anyone around me, I will just talk. What do you think about this? Like, what do you think? And before you know it, I would hear something she used to say in the past, and that would apply perfectly to the situation that I had at hand. So that has been how it's been for me. How are you doing? How have you been coping? What works for you? Even if you did not lose a loved one and you know someone that did, kindly consider sharing this video. They might need it. This is my journey. This is what worked for me, and I just wanted to share that with you. I hope you liked it. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it up to this point, please leave me a love emoji in the comments. I will be reading. Thank you so much for watching today. Thank you for stopping by. My name is Adaure, and this has been Adaure Speaks. Remember, you are unconditionally loved and you're inherently valuable. Peace.